Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is not the Dawnbringers Forge of Fury. This is Death and Taxes by Gareth Q. Barrett and Scotty McFarlane, also known as the Quest Givers, as presented by Mini Terrain Domain. Hey, that's me. So, yeah, we mentioned this previously that we were going to be down one Scotty McFarlane for a couple of weeks. And last week we ran a side quest within the Forge of Fury Dawnbringers world with the same characters but in an alternate reality, and that was a lot of fun. It gave everybody a chance to kind of play around with their characters, and it's a new thing that we're doing here on Mini Terrain Domain when we can't quite have enough players to get through our normal campaign. I'm just going to run side quests. And eventually I might even open it up to letting other players in the group run something. We've done that in the past before. But yeah, letting somebody else run a side quest within that world would be fun too. But this week, if you've been watching it all, you've seen Scotty talk about, and we do even during the break, we run a commercial, a promo for the Quest Givers, which is a joint venture from the DMG Info and the DMsCraft, Gareth and Scotty, a series of adventure modules that they write and prepare. They have photographs of terrain, which of course all the terrain that is pictured in them, you can find tutorials on the channels on how to do that. Thank you to Marafino for the subscription. You guys know what that means. Another domain dice, because as we've decided, the domain dice carry over regardless if we're in the Dawnbringers or not. So you have 23 domain dice, which I'll explain in a moment. At any rate, we're going to play this Death and Taxes game tonight. Scotty says that it can be run pretty much out of the box with minimal prep, and I did just that. I minimally prepped enough that I feel comfortable enough to run the game, to decide on a level, and I know how I'm going to do this. If you are, well, whether you're new to the channel or not, we have this thing called domain dice, which are pictured right down here below me. And they are, thank you, Gamers Theater, in the chat on Twitch here. Gamers Theater has brought up the chat command that explains exactly how domain dice work. For 500 bits, or a $5 donation, or subscriptions, raids, all that good stuff, earns domain dice. Domain dice can be used to force a reroll to the DM, for the players to reroll, and for other amazing options, with each one getting more and more costly. So, we're not going to spend a whole bunch of time on talking about stuff that doesn't relate to the game, because we want to play some D&D. And I'm just going to drop one more link in the chat. And there's a link you're going to want to click on if you want a chance to win one of 3 Game Masters bundles that includes a starter set, 6 sets of dice, a set of 6 minis, and 1 grand prize winner will receive all of that, plus a player's handbook, monster manual, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Dungeon Master Screen Reincarnated, all 5th edition, of course. So with that, are you guys ready to play some Death and Taxes? Okay. You are all on board a merchant vessel. You have been traveling along the coast for about a week now. For your own reasons, whatever those may be, you have been traveling from the south further and further north. You've made a couple of port calls along the way for resupply and so that people can get a chance to move on land. But this stop is unscheduled. To the north and to the west, out to the sea, massive storms are brewing. They are distant, but they are growing, and it would be foolish to sail into those storms knowing what waits ahead. So the captain of this ship And there are a couple other ships I should mention that have been traveling along. 2 other smaller vessels that have been traveling along with this small merchant's fleet. The captain has made the decision to anchor at in the village of Winter Bay. The bay provides a nice safe haven from the storms, with a reef that will help break the waters before they ever get in to toss the ships. As the ship is moving in, or rather the ships are moving into the bay area, we're going to go ahead and we're going to meet these players. As we say a hearty thank you to Star19 for those bits that have purchased you yet another domain die. I'm going to have to be sure to give you guys excuses to use these tonight.
So if we use those this week, does that take them away from the normal Thursday night group?
Yes, but don't let that dissuade you.
I roll the domain dice.
You're going to just roll it?
Just roll it.
Every roll, Dwight's going to spend all your guys' domain dice. So, the ship is moving into the bay now, and you can see this small fishing village. And you can actually see that along the docks, there are several people. From this distance, you can't quite see who, but you see several people that are standing eagerly watching as these 3 ships move into the bay. All of you standing on deck or wherever you may be on the ship. Tell us who you are, describe your character, and why are you even here on this ship? And we are going to start with you, Dwight.
So, anybody that happened to notice me, and it's not likely that most people on the ship would have. There was this dark figure wearing this kind of tattered robes with a hood, the kind of like a grayish, dark gray. Some hints like this used to be like probably used to be like a nice dark gray or black robe cloak combo with a hood, but it's kind of just worn and faded and a little bit tattered. But it's covered and it pulls way down over my face. And anybody that would have looked in my direction would have just kind of seen this lump of laundry, not really even noticing. And nobody came close enough to really get a good look. But that's basically what they see. So at this point, while we're pulling into the port, I'm up on the deck, as far away from everybody else as I can find a spot to be, just kind of keeping an eye on things. I'm kind of just kind of hunched up against some crates that are up on the deck, and I'm clutching in one hand this tattered tome book. It's leather bound, but it's just as beat up as my outfit is, if not more so. And and in my other hand, I just have this raggedy, crooked staff. Looks like it was hewn from some sort of tree in the forest. It's probably even it's vines that have twisted together, and it's just kind of bent and knotty and raggedy looking. And maybe a couple people notice this, but if you look right at it, you notice like some runes that just glow just slightly in kind of this bluish purple hue. But you look right at it, you're not even sure that they're there, but you're pretty sure there's something. And I'm just standing there away from everybody else. Yeah, that's who I am at this point.
Ed.
So I will be playing Smoke in the Wind, a Tabaxi rogue sorcerer. He is on the ship because he actually works for the merchant vessel. What position he currently has, that depends upon how much trouble he's gotten into recently. The only reason he hasn't been kicked off the ship is because regardless of, whether he's navigator, whether he's, up in the crow's nest, he's actually really good at his job. Problem is the belongings of other people tend to wind up in his possession, and he is really good at talking himself out of trouble. So when push comes to shove, he's a smiley, happy guy. He's black furred. He's got one very bright blue-green eye and one very green eye.
I'm sorry, I thought you were going to say he's got one bright blue-green eye and one bright green-blue eye.
No, one bright blue eye and one green eye.
Okay.
So he stands out. My apologies.
All right. Next is V.
All right, so tonight I'm going to be playing Mer Fenrake, and she's on the ship because she's heading back to home after having just finished earlier adventure, and now she's hoping to get back into the forest and just relax for a little bit. But knowing Mer, she is this petite half-elf. She's actually got this green hair that fades from a dark green to sort of like a limeish green at the end of her hair. She walks around, usually has something like leaves or flowers tucked in odd spots of her coppery gold garments. And chances are she's at the back of the ship, probably leaning over, looking to see if there are any fish or dolphins or anything like that in the wake of the ship moving through the water, not really paying attention to anything or anyone else.
And finally, Megan.
I will be playing Twin Rivers Under Stars, who has embarked on this trip in order to find a very rare ingredient that is rumored to be up north that she hopes can be used to help her cure herself from this horrible ailment that she has, and probably everyone else on the ship knows she has as well, because her nights are racked with these coughing fits. And I think she looks a bit older. Her fur is kind of graying at the muzzle and along the ears. And I think during this time she would be talking with the captain, arguing with him. Are you sure we can't keep going through these storms? It's very important that I get to where we need to go.
It's very important that we all get where we need to go, and we won't get there if we drive straight into those storms. I told you all that we would be settling into Winter's Bay for as long as it takes for this storm to pass. You are more than welcome to book passage on any of the many vessels you see here that are willing to move forward. And you see no other vessels than the 3 merchant vessels in your small fleet.
You hear a low growl come up from Rivers, and she looks like she's about to say something, but then she doesn't and turns away in a huff.
All right, everybody. As I told you, I need everybody to get into the rowboats and get ashore. We're leaving the barest of skeleton crews on these ships while the storm moves through. You'll be able to find comfortable food and lodging when you get into Winter's Bay. Plenty of places to stay, plenty of things to buy, plenty of things to eat, plenty of things to drink. Whatever your fancy, I'm sure you'll find something here. And as he's saying this, several boats have begun to... some of the crew is lowering boats down, rowboats down, and as the ships all anchor. And you can see the other boats are also debarking people into rowboats. And these rowboats, as you get into them, they are laden with some trade goods. Some of the people on board these ships are merchants and are going to try to ply their trade as they do at every stop. As And they begin to move you into this small harbor that you see several small fishing, crabbing, and oyster boats all along the docks. And as these ships, or rather these boats, rowboats, start moving toward the dock, you notice this weird trade-off happening where the crew will row a boat up. The crew and the passengers will disembark the rowboat, and people from the town of Winter Bay will get into the rowboat and begin rowing out towards the ships. Men jump in and start rowing. Women laden with baskets and crates jump in quickly and begin rowing out. You see a lot of activity on the pier. But despite the number of people, which is mostly made up of people around the the docks that are waiting, these traders and these men that are rowing the boats, there's not really a lot of excitement. It's very sort of mundane for the amount of people that is there. The sky is relatively light with a grayness. The sun is up in the mid-afternoon sky, but it's hidden behind clouds, the precursor to the deeper storm that is moving in. As you move in closer, you can see that several men and boys are swarming past everyone to load these boats, and a number of women are watching from the little windows of cottages clustered around the small harbor. You see a small boy unenthusiastically dragging a bucket and swinging a fishing pole over his shoulder. And he seems to spot you through the commotion, and he just stops, this one lone boy, as your rowboat is brought up alongside the harbor. You catch sight of a young woman walking nearby, sort of eyeing the men as they hurry past. A young girl about the same age as this young boy. Both of these children look to be around maybe 9, 10 years old. She tugs at this well-dressed woman's arm, and then they turn and begin making their way what seems to be in the direction of a local temple not far from the harbor. Every once in a while, she's looking over her shoulder, scanning the crowd. You can see from all of these boats as you are quickly ushered out of this boat onto the dock, barely even of your own accord. It's almost as if the men unloading and loading treat you as part of the cargo, and you suddenly find yourself on the dock. As men begin piling into the boats, and you see now that it seems as if all of the traders that are hopping into these boats, and you can now see by the time your boat lands, that these rowboats are heading back out to the ships, to where the crew are, attempting to ply their trade with anybody on board that won't be coming into the town. But all of the tradespeople, all of the traders are women. You now find yourself standing on this dock. The little boy is still watching you. Not far away, the well-dressed woman is still kind of looking back as she moves towards this this temple. And you see women peering out from behind curtains, watching all of the activity on the docks. What would you like to do?
Mur would
Go ahead.
Mur would probably just look at what's going on and all the activity and probably notice the little boy still there, right?
Yep.
She'd probably start walking over to the little boy just to kind of get a sense of him and see what he's up to, because he's the only one not doing much of anything, unlike the others.
I am just visibly distressed by the manhandling, getting off of the boat, and I'm just kind of again clutching everything close to my chest and looking around, trying to separate myself from the throng of people, but just kind of muttering under my breath. Just touching, touching, and again, just kind of backing away a little bit.
So Smoke, he doesn't really have a huge, care about hassles. He tends to go things as stress-free as possible, and everything is an opportunity for fun or adventure or what have you. So going to a new place, he's probably got the biggest grin on his face. Which, if people in this area don't happen to be used to tabaxi, they might be interpreting it as maybe a little bit of a a snarl or a growl, because as a cat person, he's got sharp, pointy teeth.
Give me a general charisma check.
General charisma. Not persuasion.
No, just straight up charisma.
That's a 13.
You get a few stares. There seems to be this village seems to be made up mostly of humans, but you do see the occasional dwarf, halfling. Maybe if you're here longer, you might see some other peoples, but you don't see any other tabaxi in the area. And based on the looks, which you're probably familiar with, you get people's gaze lingering on you a little bit longer than the others.
So when that happens, I tend to just I give a smile, I wave. I won't really pursue a conversation unless they seem interesting, or they might have something on them that'd be like, hey, if I go have a conversation, I might be able to chat them up a little bit and see what kind of new possessions I get today.
What about you, Rivers?
Rivers comes over onto the dock, and she has all these different bags with her, and you can hear the tinkling sound of glass knocking against each other in them. And on her belt, she has all of these different flasks attached with a variety of different colored liquids on them. And I think she would actually, upon seeing you, Smoke, she would kind of come up to you, but not looking at you, but kind of alongside you. This is absolutely ridiculous. Why would they leave us here with a bunch of humans? Just cough, right?
Well, I am certain that there's reason for. The captain says that there's a storm coming, and nobody wants to spend the next several days swimming or stuck at the bottom of the waters. I know I don't want to go to a watery grave.
I might not have these next couple of days. I might end up in a grave around here.
Well, that you never know what happens to be on the wind. Perhaps that thing that you're looking for, I can't remember what it was, but I know you said it was important, but perhaps a trader here might happen to have one. Can ask around.
Doubtful, but you're right. There's no harm in trying, I suppose.
The fates roll their dice, and sometimes you never know what they're going to land on.
One of the sailors that is taking shore leave that rode on this boat with you, he's been standing patiently while the two of you have been talking, and quickly grows kind of impatient because you're blocking the way by him, as he just kind of says, he's blatantly listening to you guys talk, and he just says, "You'd be wise not to get rowdy in the tavern tonight. I heard that woman what runs it was a pirate back in the old days. Why, matey, didn't you try to shiver her timbers last time?" He turns to one of the other sailors, who simply lifts his hand where you see a hook there, instead of a hand, and he smiles, and then the other sailors around him start going, and they sort of force their way past you.
So with a bit of grace and over exuberance with the gestures, they try to push past. I step back and bow deeply. Reaching my hand out to allow them to pass. It's totally exaggerating the whole movement.
You would hear, as they push past, you hear this kind of chirping noise coming from Rivers. Just this, and you didn't see what it was before because she was kind of not facing you, but out from by her neck appears this little clockwork looking dragon. And it just kind of peeks out at you.
At Smoke, or at the guys passing us?
Just kind of at everyone. Kind of like one of those dogs that just barks at something.
Smoke would be entirely fixated on that, not having seen such a thing before, and he would certainly begin inquiring. What is that thing?
This is my loyal servant, Hummingbird.
You named a dragon a bird.
It seemed fitting. It's so small, so cute.
Oh, it is at that. Where did you acquire one?
Oh, I made it.
Fascinating. How much would it be to make me one?
As you say this, how much? One of the women standing near you, directing a teenage boy to load some crates into the very boat that you just got off of. She's this sort of squat, stocky woman, and she looks up at the two of you, kind of looks between you, and then looks at you, Smoke. Is you looking to trade? You looking to buy stuff?
Do you have something to trade?
Are you looking for wizard?
Looking for wizard?
Did I stutter? Listen, if you're not looking to buy something, or you're not looking to... Look, I got to get going. I've got to make these trade goods go away. Hurry up, boy. Lord the gods, boy. You're probably broken half the stuff now. Sorry. I've got no time to waste with you if you can't make a decision. Get over here, you little runt. And you see a lot of this going on all over the place. Thank you, Marfino. Yet another domain dive for Dwight to waste. As that pumps you guys up to 25. So we're going to jump back over to... first for a moment, as one of the sailors just sort of brushes past a little too close to Yewan and just sort of mumbles. There are strange folk around here. You're best to just keep to your drinking. Be back to the ship by morning after the storm. And just pushes past you.
As he pushes past, I just kind of yank my arm away, just making sure that there's no contact as he pushes past.
And Myrrh, you're having to kind of like, you take a couple steps, then you have to wait for people to bustle past you, take a couple more steps, wait. All the time, this little boy is just sort of watching as you're moving towards him. And as you're getting up close to him, you guys can hear all around you some bits and pieces of conversation. And just for the fun of it, everybody roll a d20.
Oh, I got a 4.
5.
Crit.
I also got a 4.
It's like last week all over again.
Megan, re-roll.
Oh. That's a 13.
All right. You, an old man walking past Rivers carrying a crate. You just hear him as he looks up at the sky. Hey, the blood moon approaches. I wish I could head north for the celebrations. I wonder if the astral prophecy will ring true after the blood moon. They need a new queen. What did you get, Ted?
That's a 20.
You hear a woman that is actually with this elderly man. She's also elderly, a trader. And while everybody else has men and boys loading large amounts of crates, this woman just has the one crate the old man is loading, and she seems to kind of like move towards a boat, and then it's filled up, and she bustles over to another one, and it's filled up. And she just turns to you. Hey, could you spare a few ducats? That'd really help me out. Just a few. Not asking for a lot.
What's a ducat?
You would know, I think you would all know that ducats is a form of currency that is used throughout the area. It's basically what they call their silver pieces.
Do we have coin, or only what our starting packages gave us?
Whatever your starting package gave you is what you have.
Okay. Well, then, being as greedy as I am, I just continue walking.
All right, Yewan, what did you roll?
5.
Ah. May the queen bless your path. Now please, get out of mine, you bloody wizard weirds. I said move!
I just kind of startled and stumble over myself as I shuffle, probably bump into him.
You keep smoking, wizard, and your brain's gonna be addled. As he walks away. And Mare, what did you roll? You rolled the 4, correct?
Yeah.
One of the men who looks to be about 30, 35, that was loading ships. I keep saying ships. Loading their rowboats. Good Lord. He's loading rowboats. He kind of has finished putting the last of the crates into a boat, and he turns to you. Hey, you got any wizard? Come on. Just a little bit, just a pinch. Don't be hoarding it for yourself.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Everybody's keeping it to himself.
There's a warlock over there, that's what you mean.
He just stumbles away from you. He gives you a weird look as you say that. And he kind of stumbles off into the crowd and just touching people on the shoulder. You got any wizard? Come on, just a pinch. Please. Come somebody, wizard. And then you, Mirror, reach the small boy. He seems a little bit disheveled, possibly a street urchin. However, his bucket and fishing pole don't seem so worse for the wear. As you approach him, his eyes light up. Now that the path is clear, he dashes towards you, running up almost too close to you, stopping just short of bumping into you. Well met, travellers. Do you need a guide? Winter Bay is a strange place for most of you foreign types.
Hello, love. What's your name?
My name is Carol.
Hello, Carol. I'm Mer.
Mer?
Yeah. You know the place around here well?
He just seems so overjoyed that you're talking to him that he just drops the bucket and the fishing pole, The bucket hits the ground, falls to the side, squid guts spill out all over the ground as he takes his hands and he sort of slicks his hair back, and he's kind of like looking for a clean spot on his clothes to wipe his hands. And then he offers it up to you to shake your hand.
Oh, she'll totally shake his hand.
You dropped your chum there, love. Need help picking it up?
I don't need to worry about that.
You sure?
No, what? I would love to help you out, though.
Well, can you tell me what they're doing?
And she's going to nod her head over to like all the little boats going back and forth.
They
That's
really
a
are.
little bit.
They really are filling the rowboats, aren't they?
But why do they do that? I mean, why not just let things come
They've
to
got
the
to.
port?
They've got to sell all their wares to pay that Zerga when she arrives. One
The
day,
who?
one day I might be one of those assistants, but I'll probably be an apprentice-sized fisherman like me father.
You said they have to sell things before someone gets here?
Zerga? Yeah, she's the tax collector. Everyone hates it when she comes to the village. I just don't want to see that horrible pet she has.
What kind of pet? I mean, I'm usually all for animals.
I don't know what it is. It's horrible, and I hide whenever she's in the street.
Doesn't sound like a very good pet then.
No, but she likes it. She always has it with her.
Well, I had a pet porcupine and I loved him dearly, and no one ever got the idea as to why. So, I guess give the benefit of the doubt.
What in the world is a porcupine?
It's a funny little critter that has needles on its back, and if you're not careful in the direction you pet it, it'll prick you.
That's crazy.
That's what everyone else said. But he was cute. He made little quirly sounds when he would eat.
Is these other folks with you too?
We're on the same ship. You want to go over and see if they want to take you on and help us out?
You mean I could guide all of you?
Well, let's see if they want it. What do you say?
Sure.
And she's
Absolutely.
going to stick her hand out like, come on, let's go.
Absolutely, ma'am. That would be most appreciative.
Oh, I'm not a ma'am. I'm a.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am.
No, I'm not a merman. I'm a.
Absolutely, ma'am. And
Okay, sir, let's go.
so he'll walk over with you to the others.
Knowing she's probably going to walk over to the Tabaxis first because she's already picked up that Yay one is kind of the leave me alone type.
Oh, my. He looks at the two of you and he sort of gestures out with it, or holds his hand out to you, Rivers, with a slight bow. Do you take his hand?
No, she would just kind of look down her muzzle at the boy. And who might you be?
The name's Carol, ma'am. I'm sorry if I've offended you. Please, no offense is meant, ma'am. Pardon me. And he sort of shifts over towards Smoke and says, You look like kitty cats that walk on 2 feet.
There are some that claim that, yes.
I've never seen anything like you before. That's how I knew you was foreigners.
We are Tabaxi.
Tazabi. Taxabi?
You can call me Smoke. And this is
Ooh.
Rivers.
Smoke. Like the wizard weed.
Wizard?
Okay, that's the second. What's wizard weed?
I don't really understand completely. Some of my uncles smoke the stuff. It really smells bad, and it makes my head hurt. I should call it stinky weed. Some of my brothers tried it, They're always looking for more.
Do they act all funny after smoking it?
They act silly.
Mer's just gonna get a smile on her face.
Yes, that's right. You have landed in Colorado. Coastal Colorado.
The druid is familiar with wacky weed.
So, what is it that you want, little one?
Well, I would very much be willing to be your guide here in Winter Bay.
So, from where I'm standing, how big of a place does this really seem? Is a guide warranted, or is this something like, all right, well, the kid needs something to do?
From where you're standing, you can see a tavern, you can see a temple, you can see the cottages, you can see a place called the tea house, you can see what looks to be some sort of guardhouse. Essentially, you can see most of the village from where you stand.
So, little one, I can see most of your big buildings from here. What can you tell me about this place to make me feel that a guide might be necessary?
Well, where do you want to go?
Oh, the captain was saying we should get some food and drink, and the tavern's right there.
Oh, the tavern. Yes, well, Alice runs the tavern, and she is mean. She doesn't like us boys hanging around when there's ships of sailors in the village. My uncles go there to drink their happy fire water, but I'm not allowed because it makes me sick.
How old is this boy up here?
Probably around I don't know, 8 to 10.
Okay.
I think they lie because they only get sick when they have too much, and they do wee-wees that miss the bucket, and then they snore like a lumber mill.
So,
Alice is the pirate that owns the tavern. She's a real, and he kind of looks side to side. She's a real bitch. That's what my uncle says.
well, I'm sorry your uncle feels that way. I've never had a chance to meet her, and I will not allow others' perceptions cloud my own. I will form my own opinions.
You use a lot of big words. Is that what tabaxis do?
That is just the way I talk.
He's kind of looking over, and the whole time he's kind of been glancing over at you, Yewan. Do you have like a hood pulled up or anything?
Yeah, and it's pulled way down. Like all you can really see facial is just shadow and darkness. So
He just keeps looking over at you, and then he kind of leans into you, Smoke. That one over there, is that a boy or a girl?
Does it matter?
Oh, yes, very much so.
I have not spoken to this one much. You could go introduce yourself and try to find out.
But if I don't know, I won't know how to talk to them.
You could say greetings, and if they address you, then judge by the voice, or maybe you'll get a better glance.
Does it matter how you address people around here?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Why?
Well, that's just the way it is.
So, how is it different to address me than it's to address Smoke?
Begging your pardon, ma'am, but you are a woman.
Last I checked, yes.
And he is a man.
I can't say from personal experience.
He kind of looks at you puzzled.
So I kind of whisper over to Rivers, what do they do if they encounter a dragonborn?
You hear this kind of like low, raspy noise, which might usually incurs a fit of coughing, but this time she's actually laughing at that. I'm sure his little head would just explode.
The barracks master says dragons aren't real.
You need to get out in the world, little one. So, all right, there's a difference between how you speak to a woman and how you speak to a man. Who's the one you have to worry about more, the man or the woman?
What do you mean by worry about?
Which one's going to get you in trouble if you don't do it the right way?
Well, at school, the barracks master, well, he'll probably punish us if we don't have proper etiquette.
Well said.
Yes, that's it. We are taught from a young age to properly address the women and treat them with the most respect. They are the ones who sell their wares and make the ducats so that they can pay the taxes to Zerga when she comes. She's coming here soon. She's been coming a lot more often lately. I guess the queen needs a lot of these taxes things.
And then what about the men?
What about the men?
Don't they get the ducats and do things as well?
Well, some of the men become husbands.
Husbands?
Yeah, that's it. Some of the men become husbands, and they work for the women. He kind of gestures out at the rowboats. There's a lot of husbands out there.
Gracious. She's gonna look at Smokes and just like her eyebrows are gonna raise up like, this is definitely an interesting place. There's a lot more to this than I think we realized.
So you changing your destination? You're gonna settle in here then, Mer?
Not on your life.
So are we to hire the little one? Are we to wander on our own?
He's a little charming. He does seem to have information.
Well, what was did we get his name?
It's Carol.
That's so Carol, what do you charge for your services?
And he's kind of looking at his hand, and he's kind of looking at each of you, and he says, 2 ducats.
A ducat is a silver, huh?
I can tell you. Look, there's
You guys
lots to
just-
see. I can show you my fishing pond I found, where they dry the fish, and I could show you the tavern. I could take you to the temple, the pier. There's a lot of the cottages are pretty boring. There's
So,
the fishmongers and fish drying in the crab paddocks and the stocks. There's
So
nobody
as
there
you-
right now, but Zerga's coming. He's he's not even looking at you. He's just pointing around, talking. Zerga's coming, so we might see someone in the stocks when she gets here. There's the barracks where I live, the blacksmith
So you see a this this gray, ashen gray, purple hued hand just kind of reach past from the back. 2 ducats, and I just place the silver pieces in his hand.
He takes the ducats and stares at your hand, and then kind of looks up at you. Still seems to be unsure of whether you are a man or a woman, and just sort of nods curtly, afraid to say the wrong thing. So, where do you want to go? He wants to say my lady or ma'am or mister, but he doesn't know how to end that.
It's Mer. Remember, my name's Mer.
Would you care to introduce yourself? And I nod towards Yewan.
He calls me Yewan. You may call me Yewan as well.
I still don't know if he's a man or a woman.
Well,
I'm a man, young child. But
Where do you come from? He just visibly relaxes. Where do you want to go, Yewan? Do you want to go to the temple? Do you want to go to the tavern? Do you want to go to the pond? Do you want to go to the stocks? Do you want to go to the barracks? Do you want to go to the fishmongers?
You're quiet.
So
the barracks master always tells me I talk too much.
Smoke nearly falls over laughing at that one. Oh, that's rich.
So I just gesture at Smoke and Murr and take us where these two would like to go.
Wait. When you just said that out loud, it sounded like smoke and mirrors.
It did.
Oh my gosh, I just got visions of an incredible crime-fighting duo or adventuring duo known as Smoke and Mirrors.
Pin in these 2 PCs today.
Yes, Smoke and Mirrors need to have a special one-shot or adventure series.
Adventures of Smoke and Mirrors.
I like it. Let's do it.
Anyway, where would you like to go?
All right. Well, little one, you've rambled off many different locations. Where do you feel is the most interesting place in this village? Uh-oh, I stumped him.
No, he's looking down at the ground, and he's kind of screwing his face up. This was the barracks master says I have to not be selfish. And he looks like he's remembering something. It's not about what I want to do. It's about what they want to do.
Exactly. And I want to know what you think is the most interesting place in this town.
Well, I like to fish. My father is a good fisherman, and he is known all over the village as one of the best. He's a new husband now from the last gathering, so he doesn't live at the barracks anymore. I hope to be just like him one day. So I like to go to the fishing holes.
Well, then, unless there is some argument from, and I, point to each of you, then I say we check out the fishing hole.
Works for me. Gets us away from the town and out a little bit.
Okay. And he kind of turns and he says, at this point, most of the crowd has thinned. There's literally only a few people in the street. It's still a decent crowd, but it's not like crowded, pressing in. And he just turns and says, "Everybody out of the way. I'm working now. Follow me." And he begins marching you through the town. Do you go along quietly? Do you ask him any more questions?
Can I ask real quick where this merchant that went barreling past me a few minutes ago, where would they be now?
They would have gotten onto wait, which was the one that went by you?
I don't know, kind of a gruff voice. Yelled at me.
Weren't they all?
Oh, that's the one that told you to get out of their way.
Yeah.
They got on one of the rowboats and went out to the ships.
How far away are they right now?
At this point, they're probably almost to the ship.
Okay. All right.
Yewan, do you have any visible pockets or pouches?
I have a pouch under my cloak, but it wouldn't be readily visible.
Okay.
So.
Rivers would go up to the young boy as they're walking. Tell me, young human child, what kind of fish do you have in this pond?
There's all kinds of fish. There's bluegill and sunfish and bass and carp, and that's the extent of my knowledge of fish. He proceeds to list off several other species of fish.
What about perch?
I am not an outdoorsman. And perch.
Sunnies?
And pike.
And dicks and
bullheads, catfish.
This has turned into Bubba Gump stuff. Shrimp cocktail, shrimp box.
I guess she's listening for if there's any fish that are that would be more rare that would catch her attention.
No, you pretty much hear a list of a lot of common freshwater fish.
And after a while, you would.
Fish name there. So.
What was that?
I was hoping you were going to have to make up a fish name that you didn't know to name the rare fish.
I think after a while, after Rivers kind of gets the idea that there's probably nothing that would interest her much other than maybe a lunch. If Carol looked over, he would not see her anymore. She's kind of like wandered off without telling him. Still following, just further behind.
All right.
So what about Myrrh? Do you have any visible, pockets, pouches?
It's like a bunch of different folds of fabric with different things shoved in the folds. There's daisies, there's leaves, there's herbs. It's just not necessarily pockets, more like things that can conveniently tuck away.
Okay. You guys are making this really hard for me. So is there anything, interesting or, eye-catching en route to the fishing hole?
So yeah, there's there are a couple of buildings that stand out. There's a guard tower. There is a tea house. There is a tavern, and there's a tavern, and there is a temple. Which of these would you like to focus on?
I'm not really of the religious sort, so certainly not the temple. I guess because of considering the issues I've had with authorities in the past. I guess I'll take a closer look at the guard tower as we walk by.
All right. So as you You walk by the guardhouse, which is probably one of the foremost buildings as you're heading into the town proper. Other than the heraldry on the closed and fortified door, the flag gently swaying in the light breeze, and the barred ground floor windows, this 2-story guardhouse could be mistaken for a large, ordinary cottage. You recognize authority when you see it, though.
Right. But it doesn't look like anybody is, giving us the stink eye or, looking at us way too closely.
Let's see. With your passive perception, you absolutely get the sense that somebody is standing behind you.
So I will do an exaggerated, flip and turn around and try to see what's there.
I imagine as you kind of whip around, your tail kind of brushes up against this figure who kind of swats it out of the way. What do you lot think you're doing? You see a large human man, sort of longish blonde hair, bushy blonde eyebrows, a blonde handlebar mustache, wearing a guard's uniform.
We're being escorted by this young lad here to go to the fishing hole.
Is this true, Carol? Yes, I am their guide. They have hired me properly. Look, I've had my eyes on you since you landed here. You want to stay out of trouble.
And we have done nothing to cause any trouble.
I didn't say you did. I said you better not.
You can actually see us underneath those eyebrows of yours.
He turns to you and gives kind of a harumph, like a, and his mustache kind of goes. Watch it. You'll find yourself in the stocks, harassing a lawman.
Actually, sounded
Not
more
for
like
very long.
we were walking, and you kind of snuck up on us, harassing us. So if anyone belongs in the stocks, it's you.
You foreigners always come in here, thinking you can do what you want. See you eyeing my guard tower. I'm gonna draw attention to you and tell you you best be moving along.
We were moving along, and I merely glanced in the direction of your building, sir.
Your glance was a little too long for my comfort.
I'm sorry. Perhaps you're not familiar, but I don't blink as often as everyone else here.
Mur's gonna lean over to Smoke.
I think the mustache is compensating for something.
Well, before this one decides to cause any more trouble with us, let us be along, and I will just completely turn my back on him and start walking.
As you're walking away, he just looks at you and he does this.
I'm not even saying it, so.
You see, relatively close to the to the guardhouse, is the tavern, and there does seem to be a bit of a commotion coming from inside, or rather not a commotion, but a lot of bustling activity that is happening inside. And as you are walking by, this rather dapper looking, if slightly disheveled gentleman, he wears a dirty red cravat, slightly untucked. His bloused shirt is dirty. There looks to be stains down the front, ale stains down the front of his jerkin. His hair is kind of, it looks like it's normally combed back, but it's kind of hanging down. He has a neatly trimmed mustache. As he walks towards you, seeing you suddenly, he makes a very exaggerated, almost overturn as he...
Ah! Yes. Balthazar, son of Thorn, son of Finkelmaus, son of a bitch. Are you adventuring in these parts?
No, we're fishing.
You see that he's got just this ham fist. These ham fists, and he's just soaked in ale as he pushes towards you, and this mug, this tankard, kind of spills some ale out.
Would that it were so much in demand that I might even be able to procure such a thing, give it to Her Majesty come the passing of the blood moon and such, don't you agree?
As soon as I figure out what you just said, maybe?
Please,
And he makes a gesture to the empty air beside him.
won't you have a seat while we converse?
No, thank you.
I heard something about a seat.
Of course, of course. We have to keep up the show and be sure not to include any of the bread in this little trade. The bakers will be already loose in their respect for this deal if there are no marbles left in the bag. I say, seek out the loyalists. Seek them out.
Sir, how much have you had to drink?
Not nearly enough. Though that fool in there would like to tell you otherwise.
I do believe you need to lie down.
What part of hello did you not understand? Was it the hell or the O?
I think the O was too long.
Is that all you have to say for yourself? Are you twins? You look like twins. Ah,
look-
You
Nothing
assume
alike.
every tabaxi is related.
what?
Figure.
Hold. There's another one of you. Are you triplets?
At this, Rivers would take this piece of copper coin, or I guess silver, out of her pocket, and you see that as she's handing it over, you see that she does something to it with her other hand, and she hands it to him. Here, this should entertain you for a little bit. It's a coin and it smells like the best ale.
No need to tell me what coin is, but all me drinking friends have gone missing. Too busy disappearing to make an appearance. I suspect the work of some dark-robed figures. Perhaps it was you, sir.
I was going to say, I looked at him as well.
So many robes. Who wears robes in this weather? Who isn't trying to hide fish? Won't you have a drink with me?
What happened to your friends? You said they've gone missing?
My friends? In the village, that's right. The village. You know the one? Which one? No, not this one. The other one. The one with the shield and the swords. I think there's a donkey there, too.
I don't think he's talking to you anymore.
Well, then perhaps we should continue on before we get drawn into his madness.
All roads lead to where you're going, that is for sure.
Better
Even-
secondhand drunkenness from the fumes.
Even the blue one. It's really pretty. Lots of diamonds and sheep's clothing when you get to the Southwood. Oh, and Fool's de Berge. We can't forget that address. Wink, wink. Look, I have to go. It was nice
Thank
meeting.
heavens.
It was nice meeting you. Hello, Balthazar, son of a... What? When did you get back? It's rude to sneak up on people in the middle of the night and steal their important items. You should be ashamed. So, about that drink.
You have a coin
Rivers
in your
is
pocket to
already
go
moving.
get it.
You're gonna make me drink by myself. All my friends have gone. Taken by the fellows in the dark robes. Perhaps it was you and your twin brother.
So I'll say to Carol, does he know anything about dark robed peoples?
He just looks at you, just kind of. He's been keeping his distance from this guy, and he just. He's just shaking his head at you like, I don't know. I have no idea what this guy's talking about.
How far to the fishing hole, lad?
He just points. It's that way, just past the temple. So you're going to continue on, ignoring Balthazar?
Apparently.
All right. So, as you are moving along, you see that there's an area between the temple and the tea house that that Carol is leading you. You see the temple, and you see as you're walking by it the solemn place that feels as though, well, you each, I'm sure, have your own reaction to seeing this temple. A beautiful garden is growing just inside the boundary wall. A graveyard of the village's prominent dead is hugging the wall near this passage between the two buildings. There's even a mausoleum or two nestled amongst the families of grave markers. This little cemetery, this graveyard, is mostly overgrowing with weeds. Several vines and ivy cling up along the side of one of the two mausoleums. The other one seems relatively clear. As you move closer, the main doors of the temple stand open, allowing the warm air to waft into the cooler space within. You can see inside that there's ancient glasswork of inviting color that the light shines through onto the altar stonework. You can see the tall pillars and the pews within.
Is there, besides the five of us, is there anyone else around at this point?
You see that you can just see inside the well-dressed woman and the small girl standing just inside the doors, talking to a taller, older woman. From her vestments, she appears to be the priestess of the temple. Her robes, her robes are rich with detail and fine materials, and she seems to be listening pretty intently to the woman and whispers to her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. But as she does so, striking green eyes are looking over the shoulder, staring at your group of people.
Does there appear to be anything like, sacred, or does there anything appear to be like the garden? Like, does it stand out as like, don't tread on the grass or any of that kind of stuff?
I'm sorry. Are you saying, are there actual signs?
Is there anything, that makes the garden seem like you shouldn't touch it?
Well, I mean, it's just behind a low wall, but it's it's nothing like, there's not like any guards or signs or anything. I mean, it's a well-kept garden. Real quick interruption to say thank you to Superfan Joe Pereira 1974, better known as Chameleon Fam, for dropping not one, not two, not three, but 4 domain dice on you. Dropping 2,000 bits in the chat. Thank you, Chameleon, for that. As I try to figure out how to bump you guys up to, we'll do this. Boom, boom. There you are at 29 domain dice. No, it's pretty much just kind of a gardened area that looks really nice in front of the temple. All
right. Well, I'm the green eyes are they staring at us intently? Are they just kind of glancing at us?
She is watching all of you. And then you
Right.
see she still watches you as this well-dressed woman takes her hand and kisses it. The little girl that's with her is just staring in awe at this priestess. And then they both hurry out of the temple. Myrrh and Yewan, you would notice that Carol has suddenly ducked out of sight behind the wall edging the grave markers as this well-dressed woman and little girl are coming out. He seems to be just watching what's going on as the woman and the girl bustle out of the temple. She gives you just a nice, just kind of a nod and a courteous smile as they pass you, and the little girl seems to glance over and see Carol hiding by the wall, and she kind of giggles and just goes, "Fish face," and makes a kind of a face at the little boy. The priestess comes out of the temple into the garden area and addresses you. "Welcome, travelers, to our temple. May the gods bless your journey, and your journey bless our village."
Is this a temple to any particular god or goddess, or is it to many?
This temple has stood for many hundreds of years. It has survived raiders, insurgents, and even an undead uprising once. All told in the temple scrolls. A great resource for local history and where we keep the town records for future generations. Many generations of gods have been worshipped in this temple. You seem like adventurous travelers. You should pray to the gods in our fine sanctuary. Be at peace.
As she stands there.
I can't speak for the rest of my companions here, but I am more of one to dabble in fate and let the gods do with me as they will. I don't usually pray. I apologize.
We are each free to choose which gods we do or do not pray to. What brings you to Winter Bay? The approaching storm?
Oh, indeed. There appears to be many who have been chased in by the weather.
Well, she looks over at Rivers and Myrrh. Winter Bay is a fine place to raise girls. The local circle is very good at maintaining a strong sense of community. The men are very loyal. We are facing hard times at the moment. We are a strong, resilient group, and we should weather the current climate like our stalwart fishermen out in the bay.
That's very sweet of you. I already have my own circle. Thank you very much.
Wise words for little to no substance within them.
You seem to be very surly in your advanced age. You don't mind my noticing.
One notices what they see within themselves, I'm sure.
I see you like to dance with your words.
It amuses me to see if people can keep up with what I say. So far, you are doing an adequate job.
See, the beauty of a dance is that if your partner declines your invitation to dance, then you are dancing all alone. She keeps... Go ahead.
That is better for me. That way all eyes are on me and I do not have to share with a partner.
You have more in common with the women of Winter Bay than you realize.
Well, Rivers, I will dance with you. Dance with you if you wish, whether it be real dance or with words.
Why is there so much talking?
The best way to make new friends is to talk with them, to live among them, and then you will learn what you need to know in time.
Well, there is many who feel that rather than talking, drinking is the best way to make new friends.
The local tavern, yet another form of temple. If ale be the gods you wish to pray to, and so be it.
I was merely conversing. It's not exactly my way, but I definitely see the drawl, see the repartee of it.
I tell you, many temples would condemn the actions of the local tavern, but Alice runs a very tight operation, and, as you can see, a very popular establishment. And even now you can see that there are quite a few people. You guys would actually notice that while you've been conversing and moving through, some of the women traders that were out riding their rowboats out to the ships are already coming back in, and some other traders from around the dock area. And you see quite a few women bustling into the tavern.
Does Rivers see any men going into the tavern or just women? Sorry.
There's men. What's your... Give me an active perception roll.
Okay. That is 21.
Oh, nice.
You notice that there are men going into the tavern, but mostly what you see the men going in are people who had booked passage on the ships or the sailors that have shore leave. You can actually hear as the door keeps opening up from inside, you can hear the sounds of the tavern. Apparently I forgot how pages work and have been turning my pages all kinds of crazy. So this went 10, 12, 9, 7, 6. One quick second. There we go. So you can see as you can hear like raucous singing and laughter coming from inside the tavern. You even see one of the sailors talking to one of the passengers as the door opens up. "That storm's rolling in," he says, pointing up to the sky. And you see, even now you can see the storm clouds are starting to roil in closer to the land, billowing and surging, gripping brilliant flashes of intense lightning as the wave of natural power creeps closer from the far horizon. "Gonna be a big un," he says to his shipmate, and ushers him in. "Glad we ain't on the damn ship tonight." The two of them laugh and kind of push into the din of the tavern. The sign above the entrance is swaying as the first gusts of wind from the storm are moving in, pressing warm air. And you see the name of this tavern is called the Royal Fairy Woman. A piece of rotting fruit coagulates on the silhouette of a monarch's head carved into the signboard in need of a fresh coat of paint to illuminate its inscription. As the door opens, you see this huge, hulking, masculine shape stoops out of the tavern doorway. Its massive arms heave the body of a man out into the street.
Jokaputa! Mangurangaputh!
And then he spits, hawking out some fresh phlegm in the ejected patron's direction, hitting him square in the eye socket. What languages do you all speak?
Common and Elven.
Common and infernal.
I got Common, Druidic, Elvish, and Gnomish. And Sylvan.
Common, Elvish, and Dwarven.
So nobody has a clue what this man just said. This man kind of gets up off of the ground, and you can see that Balthazar is still kind of standing there swaying drunkenly and just watching this as this man rises up onto one hand from his prone position and raises his other hand towards the giant blocking the tavern entrance.
I'm sorry, mate. Sorry. It's gonna happen again. Sorry.
He grunts and turns back into the tavern. One of the sailors is peeking out through the doorway and starts laughing at the man on the ground. And he's quickly pushed out of the way by the huge burly man. Carol speaks to you, Myrrh. That's Puta. He's really grumpy.
Is Puta human? Or human?
My uncles say that he said I don't remember what they called it, but when and he does that when he's like trying to think of something. When a man and a woman love each other, when the woman has picked her husband from the gathering, and they go behind a closed door, but that happened out in the hills with the giant, my uncle said.
That explains a lot. So this Puta, is he like the brawn at the tavern?
My brothers say he's bouncy.
Bouncer?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Sort of.
And then you hear this tremendous crash as another patron is thrown through the window this time, colliding with Balthazar, who spills his ale. Balthazar,
You're gonna pay for that.
the man is kind of sprawled across him, and he says, again, he hollers out at him,
Jokaputa! Mangarungangakaputa! Ah!
and while you guys decide if you're going to go in the tavern or talk to the temple or continue on to the fishing hole, we are going to take a break because I gotta pee. So,
Gotta go bathroom.
I suddenly realized what time it was. I'm having so much fun with this. So yeah, we're going to take a quick 10-minute break during which there will be a few messages from our sponsors, which is really just me and actually there's a Quest Givers promo in there, along with a promo from V and something from Megan and something from me, all kinds of good stuff in there. So we are going to take this brief 10-minute break. I do want to thank everybody who's been tuning in tonight. Subscriptions and bits dropping left and right, all kinds of domain dice. But if these guys continue to wander the street, they're never going to have a need to roll domain dice. So let's see if they can make a decision When we come back, we'll be back in just in just 10 minutes. Hey internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is The Intermission. Mini Terrain Domain, or MTD, is a channel dedicated to the love of and participation in the world of tabletop role-playing games. Whether we're designing encounters or miniature terrain, building worlds or dice towers, or just playing games, everything we do here is because we love. The mission statement of Mini Terrain Domain is simply imagine, build, play. If you like to watch live play or actual play D&D games, you can do so at twitch.tv/Mini Terrain Domain 3 days a week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. On Sundays, you can join us for Cult of Personality, a long-running campaign set in the Tomb of Annihilation adventure setting. On Mondays, you can join us for All That Glitters, a Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign guaranteed to be epic proportions. And every Thursday night, you can join us for Dawnbringers, the Forge of Fury. This is a series of mini campaigns going across the gamut of several well-known modules. Season 1, which is available on youtube.com/Mini Terrain Domain, took place in the Sunless Citadel, and Season 2 is currently taking place the Forge of Fury. If you can't join us in the chat for our live shows, that's okay. You can usually catch the roleplay, or rather the replay, on YouTube just 2 days later. If you're a fan of what we do here and you'd like to support what we do, there are a variety of ways you can do this. First, simply follow the Twitch channel or hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Next, make sure you follow all of the participants of each game or show on their various social media platforms. To do this, if you're watching live with us on Twitch, you can simply type an exclamation point and that person's name into the Twitch chat, or on YouTube, you can look down below the information bar and all of their links can be found there. Finally, if you would like to provide monetary support, which flows right back into the production of the channel so we can continue making great content, you can join the growing list of patrons on Patreon. Additionally, you can also use Ko-Fi or Coffee to buy a coffee or two. I like coffee. But the absolute best way to support the channel is to follow and subscribe on Twitch and YouTube and join us in the chat. If you have an Amazon Prime account and you link it to your Twitch account, you can subscribe to one channel per month absolutely free. No matter what you decide to do, we are just happy to have you here. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more great content in just a few moments. Remember, metadata!
Hi everyone, I'm V, and I have the YouTube channel, The Crafting Muse. Please be sure to go over there and check it out if you too would like to learn how to make some tabletop terrain, paint miniatures, as well as some game accessories. I'm always happy to have new subscribers over there.
Learn the ways of the Game Master, the Dungeon Master, and delve into the minds of the players. If you're looking for adventure, excitement, thrills, and a dice-rolling good time, grab the modules each month and play the campaign with your gaming group with quest givers DM Scotty and DMG. They're taking you on an epic journey through the role-playing experience every Friday. You're sure to get hooked on adventure.
And we really liked the idea of creating adventures together, so we thought that'd be a lot of fun to share with you guys.
I didn't think this kind of stuff would come out of my brain. We are quest givers and I'll see you in the next video.
Adventure Mixtape, a music and adventure anthology, is a collection of 4 adventures for the 5th edition of the world's most popular role-playing game. The adventures are setting neutral and meant to be seamlessly dropped into any world that has a large seaside city in a jungle environment. With a bit of adaptation, the environments could be changed to suit any group. In Treaty of the Tiger King by Kelsey Dion of the Arcane Library, a distant king arrives at the city to negotiate the peaceful end of a war, but the mercenary guild has other insidious plans for him. Will the players be able to thwart assassination attempts against King Rami and help him negotiate circles of social intrigue in order to finally end the war? In Madness of the Majestic Menagerie by Ken Brees of Burling's Beard, the famous Majestic Menagerie draws hordes of visitors to the metropolis and cultural hub known since time immemorial as Splendor by the Sea. But now the gates of the famous zoo have been shut, and the grand opening of the new section has been jeopardized by a spate of mysterious accidents and, it's whispered, grievous injuries due to uncontrollable creatures. Mr. Majestic seeks to hire investigators and troubleshooters who can keep a low profile to iron out any problems before the impending grand opening becomes a complete disaster. Do you have what it takes to uncover what's driving the madness that's befallen the Majestic Menagerie? In The Infernal Collection by Sharong Biswas, when an influential fashion designer is found dead days before a major fashion show, heroes are called in to solve the mystery, prevent any further destruction, and help the fashion house prepare for the show. Gorillas in Their Midst by Jacob W. Norman of Mini Terrain Domain is a pulp action adventure wrought with perilous challenges and a high possibility of death. But what is adventure without danger? Of course, there is the lure of vast piles of unclaimed treasure and the accompanying fame that await those intrepid adventurers who would defy the odds and plunge into the heart of darkness. In this adventure, the characters will face raging river rapids, wicked waterfalls, poisonous plants, venomous vines, sinking sands, treacherous traps, and the vicious jungle demon itself, Awakane Gori. Grab your satchels, fedoras, and bullwhips. Adventure awaits. The Adventure Mixtape also comes with 4 original songs inspired by and written for the heroic adventures herein. This collection of music and story is something unique. We had no better word for it than mixtape. If you ever received a cassette, CD, or digital playlist curated to take you on a memorable journey, then you'll recognize what you find inside this volume. Also included in the Adventure Mixtape, courtesy of Kelsey Dion of the Arcane Library, are exclusive combat cards. Special cards that contain all of the items, monsters, and spellcasters found within these adventures to make running your adventure all the more easier. Adventure Mixtape, a music and adventure anthology, is available exclusively on drivethrurpg.com.
Cryforth, once home to the most wondrous kingdom the world had ever known, blasted to nothing in just a fortnight. It is here that the fiends of hell walk among us. It is here where all things die. Welcome to Cryforth. Demon invaders roam the landscape and have conquered all. The world is a ravaged and wrathful wasteland, where the old world lies buried beneath the blood and sand with its gods and its secrets. Water is fought over with blood and steel. Compatible with the 5th edition of the world's oldest fantasy role-playing game, this book contains all new character creation options, including all of the familiar classes with new aspects befitting the ravaged wastelands of Cryforth, along with new backgrounds, subclasses, spells, feats, and so much more. New races will allow you to play as the cursed Ash Elves, the Forsaken Humans, the Primordial Incarnate, the Proud Orcs, the Reptilian Suri, or the Infernal-Blooded Tieflings. New game mechanics such as blood, grit, and effort give your games an intense focus on lethality and survival. Numerous roll tables full of ideas to help bring your games to life. Featuring incredible thematic art by Brandish Gilhelm of Broodhammer Games, as well as Lloyd Collins. The people of Cryforth are not heroes. In Cryforth, it is courage just to survive. Will you rise to face the tide of demons, or will you succumb to the hostile elements? Available now on drivethrurpg.com.
And we're back. 10 minutes on the nose, and we are going to... I know Gareth, the DMG info is in the chat, has been watching, and I'm going to concede to you, sir, that it was a misnomer to call this a one-shot, probably. Because you know how players are once you get in here. I will say this before we get right back into it. I thought I knew for sure exactly where you guys would go, but I was thinking of you, the players, not your characters. So, with that, you are standing outside of the bustling tavern, the Royal Fairywoman, where somebody has just been, yet again, thrown outside of the tavern. Another man has been thrown out. And... you have just had a conversation with a mysterious priestess of the temple, and you are being escorted by Carol, a small boy, who's taking you to a fishing hole.
So, do we continue on, or are any of you interested in getting a bite to eat or a small sip of whatever they have in there?
Perhaps it is not best for us to be outside with this storm so quickly approaching.
And I just kind of look down at this book, and I look up. It tells me to follow the pillar of smoke. I just look right at smoke.
I'm like, I am not a pillar, but I haven't had any complaints either.
I just keep looking at smoke, like just waiting for him to decide where to go.
So what say you, Mur? Inside or continue on to the fishing hole?
Quite frankly, I'm fine either inside or outside. But
Mur, as you're saying this, you hear. You're the only one that hears this. You hear coming from further from the direction, it's slightly uphill, and from further up the road, where the road kind of starts to leave outside of town proper, you hear a rumbling sound. It's got a kind of, right now you hear it as just almost you feel it in your feet, and you hear this deep kind of, and then you can just start to pick out the higher notes of rattling and squeaking of what sounds to you like a carriage coming down the road. A large carriage. You can hear the sound of several horses' hooves.
Oh, wherever we go, we need to get out of the road. There's someone or something coming. So
what kind of buildings is it? Is it just the tavern?
Yeah.
All right. Well, then inside we go, or inside I go.
As you start to move towards the entrance, you hear the rest of you begin to hear this sound, and there's actually a couple people now that are pushing and blocking your entrance a little bit as they're just kind of peering out. Like they've heard it. They kind of look in both ways. And then you can see as this large fortified carriage rolls into town. There's an entourage of ragtag guards that loosely surround it. One is leading the large horses that pull the carriage. Brings it to a halt just in front of the tavern. A driver drops down from the top of the carriage and checks on the horses real quick, and then actually starts to also lead them around just a little bit off to the side as an even larger and more ornate carriage pulls up behind the first. The door swings open and a guard rushes over to pull down the single stair and offer a hand. A large, obese frame of a woman strains at the carriage door. The undercarriage and stairs as she oozes out onto the ground, swinging her hand at the helpful guard with disgust. Her hair is magnificently overcoiffed. Large, reddish-brown, garishly red curls, loose, large curls piled high and spilling down over her shoulders. Her robes undulate her...
The DM broke. Uh-oh.
I think it's just because I know that Scotty and Gareth wrote this. Her robes undulate her buxomness and hang like a... Wait, what? Here we go. Wait. Her robes undulate her buxomness and hang like a general's front-line tent from her ample waist, not reaching the ground, thus revealing her polished black leather boots.
That was a hard word.
It was right at the line of my bifocals, and I wanted to be sure that it said boots.
Sound it out, Jake.
I was going to say there was the boost, and I'm like, and the what that are leather polished? What?
I love you, Scotty and Gareth. All right. So her... This ridiculously large woman is standing there, her jewelry gleaming with decadence. In her arm is a snug bundle of fur and skin with a coiled tail hanging over her elbow. Her yellow teeth emerge through lips glistening with congealing fat of her last indulgence as she smiles, surveying the village. She belches loudly.
Winter Bay.
Her mass ebbs and flows towards the tavern in a waft of rich perfumery and chicken fat.
Come, Nerlog. Let's get some din-dins with Mummy. Yes.
A horrible nattering sound emanates from her caressed bundle. Behind her, from the opulent carriage, emerges a black-robed figure. Light on its feet, a hood covering its head and long sleeves, not revealing any hands as they fold into one another across the figure's waist. It drifts head low through the village en route to the temple. As she moves into the tavern, people move out of the way. And
so the woman goes to the tavern, but the black robe figure starts marching to the temple?
Yep.
Okay.
And you hear, as this woman goes into the temple, as the people there in the doorway just move out of the way. Puta actually shoves some of them out of the way. And you hear as this large woman enters.
Alice, my old friend.
What would you like to do? Will you go into the tavern? Will you follow the robed figure? Carol leans towards you and just says, "That's Zerga."
Obvious that, is it? And I will wander into the tavern, but as opposed to heading to a table at first, I'm just gonna make my way to a wall and just lean back and observe for a little bit. I wanna see this interaction between Alice and Zerga.
This small town might prove for some amusement yet. And Rivers is going to follow Smoke.
Yep, and Ewan will do the same. Clearly, like he gets to the threshold of the door and just kind of like steel himself a little bit, and then forces his way into the crowd, and again, just tries to find a spot, locate the spot that's away from the crowd of people. Tucks himself into a corner somewhere.
So Smoke is kind of on the same wall as the door. We've heard some warnings about this Zerga, and I'm, he's ever present with, knowing his escape route and knowing how I've got the ability to seriously put on the speed if I really need to. I can get out of here quick, and being able to be closer to the door makes me that much able to be gone faster.
So, as you all move in, you see as people have sort of scattered to move out of the way, even some of the men grabbing at the edges of tables, and you hear that kind of wood on wood screeching as they move them to the side. Zerga looks at one of the waiters, stares at them as if waiting, and when they say nothing, she just leans toward the waiter and yells in his face, "Chicken!" And then immediately turns back to Alice, who is a large woman, as in tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a leather apron. She beams at Alice. "I see you still have this lumbering thing as a doorman." She laughs, motioning a greasy hand toward Puta, who glumly turns away. Alice looks at her. "I see you still have your somewhat furry friend," smiles Alice, looking at the creature nestled in Zerga's arm. "Oh, yes, don't worry about the mean old lady. Mommy is getting you some din-dins," she blabs as she nuzzles the head of the fierce-looking face tucked into the side folds of her enormous breast.
We still haven't figured out what kind of creature that is yet, though?
Nope. "Chicken!" She barks again to the room in general, as the waiter hurriedly swerves through the mass obstacle of chairs to deliver a large bowl of breaded chicken legs. "Come, Alice. Let's you and I speak privately in your little room back there." And she disappears with Alice to a door behind the bar. "What would you like to do?"
He took the creature with him?
She has it nuzzled in her breast, so yes.
Well, you never know. I mean, I put my cats down to eat, so I didn't want to make the assumption.
So who else is here in the tavern?
Now that Alice has Alice and Zerga have disappeared, the sounds sort of pick up again, and there are quite a few patrons in here. It's a tavern. Is there anybody in particular you're looking for, or do you want to order something?
I am always looking for interesting people. Whether it be, someone whose race doesn't seem to fit in, like myself and Rivers, whether it be someone who is dressed differently or, is speaking with, an uncommon accent. The more traveled, the more chances that they might have, either an interesting story or something interesting on them that might become mine.
I'm sorry, say that last part again.
Or they might have something interesting on them.
Yes, you're looking for people to steal. You're not looking for people to steal. You're looking for people to steal from. Gosh. Okay, what about the rest of you?
Go ahead.
I would say the same thing. I'm just standing up in this corner against the wall, just keeping an eye on what's going on, trying to, if you look over at me, I'm just, again, my hood is down over my face, but I'm looking out underneath, just kind of watching what's going on. And I'm looking for anything. Clearly something doesn't feel right about whatever's going on here. And I have whisperings in my head that are telling me things are not right. So I'm just trying to keep an eye on, do I see anything that jumps out at me or anything like that?
Rivers is she's taken a hummingbird off of her shoulder and is placing it on the table and is proceeding to take out various tools and start to tinker with this small little dragon, occasionally taking a few drops of potions and kind of dripping it onto the creature. And you can see that every time she does that, the creature kind of chirps and shakes a little bit. But as she's doing so, she's trying not to make it obvious, but she too is just kind of observing the room and the people, and especially the people who came with this lady.
And what about Myrrh?
Myrrh's gonna go up to the bar and just sort of sit down and sort of take in things and kind of sort of blend herself in with the others who are there right now.
All right, so I would like Smoke to make me an investigation check. And Rivers, actually I want everybody roll investigation.
15.
I'm going to use a domain die.
You really want to see stuff.
A lot of them, so.
We only have so many.
19.
15.
14.
Okay. Smoke.
Yes, sir.
You see people are a little bit more crowded. There's a few sailors and stuff that are nearby, a little more crowded as people made room for Zerga to walk through. So with the crowded nature of everybody, you spot a couple of people that look like they wouldn't notice if they were to suddenly be minus a purse.
It's not so much the coin I'm looking for. I'm looking for, something interesting. It's I mean, coin can work as well, but it's about the hunt than it is about necessarily the thing.
Hold on a second. I'm just checking something.
Yep.
V, can you check on that last comment for me real quick? Just see if I missed something. Yeah, you would see that there is a sailor nearby that actually has a looking glass. It's a pretty nice looking glass, and you know that these are not cheap to come by. Which is probably why he has it on his person. It's tucked into his waistband and is sticking up a bit.
So, I'll begin walking around, keeping an eye out to where he is, and I'll kind of look around, kind of get close to people and see like, kind of invade people's personal space, so I get a habit of this happening, and then I'll eventually wander over to this guy, bump into him, and that is a 15 sleight of hand.
Let's see if he notices you. Neither him nor his companion notice what you are doing. And that little comment about in the chat, I missed something about there being an extra domain die. And then just to be sure I didn't miss anything, Joey dropped 1,000 more bits in there. So you guys are up to 31 domain dice. Dwight, if you use them, apparently they grow back twofold.
I use the domain die.
So, Rivers, what were you looking for again?
She's paying particular attention to. Did that hooded figure leave with the woman?
The hooded figure left and went to the temple. Never even came into the tavern. But I think you said you were watching, correct me if I'm wrong, you were just kind of watching the people that came in with Zerga?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So you've noticed that on one side of the tavern, some of these people that came with her are pushing people out of their seats and rearranging the tables and seem to be setting up some kind of an area. They've moved a couple of chairs to one side of the table, and they're moving other tables from around there. They're setting up some boxes and sacks on the table. Another man is setting up with a parchment, a bottle of ink, a couple of feather quills, and more rolls of parchment, as they appear to be setting up for something. Smoke, you absolutely procured that looking glass, by the way.
Cool. Now, is that a looking glass, or is that like a out of the player's handbook spyglass?
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant. Looking glass is like a mirror. I meant a spyglass.
Holy crap, those things are valuable.
Yeah, that's what I was. I was underwhelmed at your reaction was underwhelming at when I kept saying it, and it's because I was saying the wrong thing. Look, you found a nice mirror. No, you found a very expensive spyglass.
I assumed you were talking spyglass, but I think I was thinking like maybe it was a lower quality. Which
No. It's a really nice one. Like we're talking polished brass, ground glass. This thing kicks ass just around.
All right. Well, I make sure that's on the inner layer of my stuff, so that nobody's gonna try and pick it from me.
Yewan, you notice that there is a almost palpable sense of a dark cloud hangs over this village, and it's not just the storm. There's a subtle undercurrent of shadow and darkness happening that to you it's almost like an odor on the wind buried beneath the flowery scent that the outward appearance of this town has. There's just something there. And Myrrh, you notice that as Zerga goes in the back with Alice, you see several a small group of, or rather you see a handful of women kind of suddenly usher out from the back room. Probably about 4 or 5 of them, as if chased from the room. And they all look to be traders. And you can see as they walk by, they kind of eye another cluster of women that are in the corner of the tavern, all dressed in their finery. And they're kind of giggling a little bit. And they're just watching the room. They seem to be looking closely at several of the village men. And every once in a while you'll see as one of the women sort of flashes a smile and bats her eyes. One of the village men will raise a tankard and smile and take a drink. And there seems to be a sort of cross-room flirtation taking place.
So this feeling that I'm getting, this undercurrent of despair and whatnot, is it concentrated in any particular area, or is it just kind of throughout everything?
You've been trying to put your finger on it since you got here, and it wasn't until you kind of came in here and you realize now, it's one of those things like you don't realize when there's like a subtle noise, you don't notice it until it's gone. When you come into the tavern, you realize that the sensation is coming from outside, and seems to be what you're sensing now is wafting in from outside. Whether it's generally in the outside or from somewhere else nearby, you can't tell. But it's lingering in the air. I just saw the other 500 bits, so I gave you another domain die.
I just I look down at my book and I kind of crack it open. I look at it, and I just had this. Well, you know, my head is kind of tilted a little bit. Anybody that's near might be able to hear me just whispering, "Is he here? Has he been here? Is he here? Is that why I'm here?" And I keep like looking at the book and closing the book and looking around and looking at the door.
As you look at the door, and all of you might notice this except maybe Smoke, who's otherwise occupied. One of the guards that accompanied Zerga comes out of the back room and seems to be moving very hurriedly through the tavern and heads outside. As he steps outside the door, he kind of looks both ways and then he kind of just takes off. A moment later, the door to the back room opens and Zerga and Alice emerge. Zerga looks over to where the tables have been set up. She looks at the people in the town, the village people that are in the tavern.
You know what is about to take place. Queue up! Don't just sit there!
And immediately the village men and women stand up and they move towards the tables. And in a very quick fashion, as Zerga kind of plops herself into a chair over there, the man, the scribe with the parchment, begins taking down names and writing things down as people begin depositing large amounts of money into the boxes and the bags on the table as Zerga begins to collect taxes. A moment later, the door to the tavern opens and the guard returns. He's dragging with him the well-dressed woman who you saw at the temple. And you also see that there is a queue of people outside that are beginning to line up outside the tavern, waiting to pay their taxes. As this woman is brought in, Zerga stands, the chair protesting as she rises to her feet.
It has come to my attention that there are some among you who are ungrateful wenches and are unhappy with the way the Queen levies her taxes and provides for you and your men. As the Queen's lawful representative, I have decided to make an example of this woman. Place her in the stocks and prepare the lash.
And this woman begins screaming, "No! Please, for the sake of the gods, and all that is good in the world, please, hear my case." Zerga chomps down on a chicken thigh she's holding.
Shut that bag up, will ya? She's disrespected her queen. She tried to get out of paying her fair share, and she tried to hide her husband by sending him to that foreign ship. Failure to do your duty is an insult to the rule of law. For that, you sorry excuse for a subject, you shall feel the lick of the lash against your back.
Jake, the other sailors, are they kind of looking on, or are they getting in line?
No sailors are getting in line.
Okay.
And everybody's starting to kind of have that look of, almost like they're hiding in their glasses of ale.
So as this is starting to go on, you see me. I start to get more and more excitable over in the corner, and he is here. He's here. And then I kind of like dart away from the wall, and I walk right over to what's her name, the fat lady, Zorga.
Zorga.
Is he here? Do you serve him too?
Who are you and how dare you approach me?
He's here. Do you serve the crawling chaos? He's here. The pain.
Get this man away from me.
One of the guards grabs you and pulls you away.
You're not really gonna attack a woman of faith, are you?
Does she have faith? Does she have faith in him? Is that why she's here? Is that why we're here?
Who are you talking to, Smoke?
To just the general room, like, I guess the guard and Zerga.
The guards.
Oh,
go ahead.
As he grabs me, I just turn like reflexively to him, and I just reach out and grab him with my hand, and just reflexively cast chill touch.
Okay, so Dwight has decided that you guys are going to start a fight.
Where's the bouncer?
Not far away.
I figured as much.
So I'm going to let you have that chill touch, but I also want you all to roll initiative.
Yeah.
Seven.
20.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
It's in the chat.
Hold on. D&D Beyond was frozen for me. Try this again.
My chill touch is a 23.
And what kind of damage does that do?
It does necrotic.
Oh, I mean, in terms of how much damage.
Yeah. It does 5 points of necrotic damage. And again, it's not like unintentional, but it's just kind of, as he reaches out for me, I just kind of like reach out. I'm so excitable that it just kind of happens.
What does it look like when you kill this guard?
Oh, jeez.
So I reach my hand out, and as I cast this, and it's like I almost kind of flinch as it happens, and then I see him crumple, and I just kind of like there's this shriek, and I just kind of recoil at what happened, as he crumples, and I just start to look around, like, what have I done? I look at the book. What did you do? What have I done? What did I do? What did you do? Why did you make me do that?
All right. So, looking at initiative scores. What was yours, Dwight?
7.
Good thing you got that chill touch up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it looks like the order is going to be Myrrh, Rivers, Smoke, Zerga. For some reason, I wrote Zorba down on my paper. I was like, who the heck is Zorba? Zerga, Puta, and Daewon. There may be other combatants involved here, but as Myrrh, as Yewan just suddenly kills a guard as these other guards are dragging this woman out. What would you do?
How far away am I from Yewan?
You went over to the bar, so you're probably about 20 feet away.
I'll start making my way over to Yewan. And then get close enough where I can kind of keep an eye on what's happening with him and hold action.
All right, so you're going to move over to him. What are you holding what action are you holding, and what are you holding up?
I'm holding Earth Tremors.
And what's your trigger?
If I see people starting to go to grab him.
All right, Smoke.
Rivers is next.
That's what I said, Rivers.
Rivers is she initially goes to put her head down towards her little homunculus, but it kind of looks up at her and it starts to chirp at her. Just this. She, yes, I know, but it's not our fight. We shouldn't get into it. Fine. You may go help him. Give him a little bit of extra abilities to fight if he needs it. And she's going to take this little dropper and she puts a few drops of this vibrant green liquid onto the back of this small little dragon. And immediately this dragon takes off towards Yewan. And Yewan, you feel this thing rest on your shoulder. And it kind of almost like a fly does. It takes the front of its hands and kind of pats its head, and you can see that this little liquid that Rivers had put on splashes a little bit onto Yewan's shoulder. And you are going to gain temporary hit points of 2d6 plus 2.
That's good because I'm real squishy.
So that's going to be 10 temporary hit points for you.
I like that. Right.
That's nice. How many guards are outside?
Outside of the tavern?
Yes.
Well, you don't know.
Because you said that the guards drugged the priestess outside.
There's no priestess. It wasn't the priestess. It was the woman, the well-dressed woman that went to talk to the priestess.
Oh, okay. I misinterpreted that.
Yep, but it was a single guard that was dragging her out.
Okay.
There were other guards, and there is quite a crowd of people outside now, so there could be more guards out there.
So, just describe the interior of this tavern. Is this a one-story building, a two-story?
It's a two-story building. Pretty much what you'd expect. Kind of open up, a little bit of a balcony, some rooms upstairs. Maybe 40, 50 feet across the room in total. Few tables and chairs, the bar at the far end, a back room.
All right,
but now you have the tables on the other side that are set up for tax collection.
All right, I'm going to use my feline agility and my bonus action to dash, and I'm gonna climb up the walls, and I'm gonna go up to that balcony, and I'm gonna have my bow ready, and if people start if they're gonna start drawing and fighting, I'm gonna start shooting. So I am holding the action that if they're gonna come after Yewan, then I'm gonna start shooting.
I would like Smoke, Myrrh to make perception checks, and I would like Rivers to do so at disadvantage.
Since we have so many, I will choose to use a domain die. Yeah, because that turned my 5 into a natural 20, so that's a 25 perception.
I got a 17.
And
I got a 10.
Yewan, you just killed a man, so you're a little distracted. And you don't see this, but Myrrh and Smoke, you see as Zerga, as she was in the act of standing up and starting to move forward, you see this weird creature as she sort of drops this bundle onto the table. You see this thing that looks kind of like a dog, but if somebody took a dog and ripped most of its hair out, gave it a long tail, and stretched it out, and then beat it with an ugly stick.
that last part's important.
This thing is horrible looking. Its teeth, as it opens its mouth, it looks like it has a small mouth, because it does have a sort of ferret-like look to it. It opens its small mouth, and then it gets wider, and it almost impossibly wide, as you see these sharp rows of teeth. And as it opens its mouth, you see as the teeth, there's 2 rows of them, and they actually move counter. They sort of have a back and forth movement to them. And Smoke and Myrrh, you notice this thing, as it hits the table, it immediately starts to go, and it begins to vibrate very quickly, and it almost looks blurry. It's vibrating so fast. And then you see it, boom, as it lurches, it seems to disappear. Yewan, you suddenly feel as if you have eaten a very large meal. Your stomach bloating with the amount of food you don't remember consuming. And whatever it was that you did not eat, it does not agree with you, as you feel intense cramping and pain in your gut.
Oh, my word.
And it is also at this time, Yewan, since you just killed a man, that the large figure of Puta takes a couple of strides towards you. And I want you to remember, you were the one that started this fight.
Mm-hmm.
You who complained that I kill you in every one shot.
I didn't want to make sure. I wanted to make sure it happened.
As he comes towards you, seeing what you've done, he just takes these steps towards you, and he's going to...
Is he walking by me when he does that?
He was just a couple feet away from both of you. So, he's not walking past you so much as into your area of attack, as he's throwing a fist at Yewan.
Then I'm going to start Earth Tremor.
So, as soon as he draws back to punch, I will loose my arrow.
Yep, you both had held actions, so go ahead and do those.
I hit AC 20, 30-20 for 14 points of damage.
All right. That absolutely hits. Puta barely seems to notice the arrow that lodges into his shoulder.
Yeah, I figured as much.
What about your Earth Tremor? What does that do?
He has to make a dex save against a 13.
Is that an area effect?
Yeah, it is. 10-foot radius. So each creature in that area has to make a dex check.
What's the DC?
13.
So he's going to fail.
All right, so then he's going to be knocked prone and take 1d6 bludgeoning damage.
All right, roll that.
Oh, sweet, a 4. And he's now prone.
So he falls, taking 4 points of damage. And as the guards absolutely, they rolled an @20 on their save. So the guards that were affected sort of stand their ground. Puta is going to still attempt to lash out at you, Yewan, from the ground, so it'll be at disadvantage. That is, with disadvantage, that is a 16 to hit.
That hits.
From the ground, he can't seem to quite get the full force of it. So he only takes 7 points of bludgeoning damage as his fist connects with you.
Okay.
And
as he hits me, I will use my reaction to cast Hellish Rebuke.
Yeah.
And so he hits me, and it just, like, I've been, like, just, you know, in a tizzy over what just happened. It's like my mind is just in 1,000 different places. As soon as he hits me, I just kind of snap to, and I pull my hood down, and so you see this, you know, again, it's this ashy, grayish, with kind of like a purple hue, gray, skin, and it's just covered in tiny cuts all over, like scars from cuts all over my face. And I just turn, I look at him, and I point at him, and just, no, and cast Hellish Rebuke. He's got to make a DC 14.
With a 13 on the die, that's a 12.
All right, so he is gonna take. He bursts into flames and takes 10 points of fire damage.
As he's slapping at the fire on him. No longer seems to be concerned with you. So that was your reaction. And the guards are now going to make an attempt to one of the guards is going to start running towards the stairs. He's not going to be able to get all the way there as he's coming up after you, Smoke. And another guard comes running in from just outside the door. And one each is going to attack at Yewan and Myrrh. Yewan, that is a 18 to hit, and Myrrh, that is a 15 to hit. So I think that hits both of you. Yewan, you take 6 points of slashing damage from a sword, and Myrrh, you take 5 points of slashing damage as these guards come rushing into you.
Thanks for those temporary hit points. They're gone
now. And let me see when this happens. Okay, yeah, that wouldn't be this turn. So we're back to the top of the order. Yewan is not you. No, we're at the end of the order.
Yeah, so I still get to
Sorry,
go.
it's your turn. That's what I meant. It's your turn, is what I was trying to say.
I'm engaged with a guard, correct?
Yes.
All right. So I kind of grab my staff and I hold it out in front of him, and I just start to whisper something. And he needs to make a Constitution 14 saving throw.
That's a 19 on the die, so he makes it.
Okay. What does this do? There's nothing. All right.
He just looks at you.
Yep.
Surprised that nothing is happening.
Yep.
As we are back at the top of the order with Myrrh, you are engaged with a guard.
I'm going to think I'm going to do poison spray on him.
All right.
So he has to do a Constitution save of a 13.
With a 2 on the die, that is going to be a fail.
Oh, well then he's going to take 1d12 poison damage. Which, where is you? There he is. Oh, nice. He got 6.
You spray this acid into his face, and you see the flesh beginning to melt off of his skull as he starts screaming. What does it look like as he dies?
It's very much like the Indiana Jones when they look at the Ark when they shouldn't, and basically as he's screaming, his eyes start to bulge out, the skin starts to melt away, and you start seeing the muscle and then the skeleton, and then he just collapses into a goopy mess of acid and what was once flesh.
All right. So that guard's down. Rivers, you are up.
Okay. How many? There was the guards that were heading towards the stairs. Is that what you were?
There's a guard that's he's sort of heading towards the stairs to rush up after Smoke.
So, is he at least 60 feet away from Rivers, still sitting at the table?
Is he within 60 feet of you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
anything in this tavern is within 60 feet of you.
Okay, perfect. So Rivers, she's kind of looking with this bemused look on her face as she takes another flask from her belt, and she's going to pour a little bit onto the ends of her very long nails. I mean, you can't even say that they're nails, they're claws, until she has them all kind of together, and she just kind of flicks this stuff, and it goes flying towards this guard, and he has to make a Constitution saving throw.
I'm really impressed that just about all of you are attacking with spells that require saves. So you don't have to make attack rolls. I have to do all the rolling and failing. That's a 4 on the die, so that is a failure.
So I also got a nat 20 because I'm casting Ray of Sickness. So
remind me.
So that does 2d8 poison damage. So that's max, and then roll.
Oh, wait. What was the con save for?
He is now poisoned. So it does the damage, and then he makes a con.
Oh, I got you.
Save. And if he fails that, then he's poisoned in addition to taking the damage.
There we go. Sorry. I don't use that spell very often.
Not that it matters much. The damage is probably going to bring him down.
With a crit, you can absolutely describe how you kill this guard as he's in movement heading up the stairs.
So you see that he's running up these stairs, and Rivers just kind of flicks this almost like ectoplasm looking stuff at this guard. And at first it just hits him, and it immediately disappears into his skin. And he kind of feels it, and he takes a step back, and he looks down, and then all of a sudden he begins to cough and retch. And at first he can't stop sneezing, and then the sneezing turns into coughing. The coughing turns into retching until this huge spurt of blood just comes out from his eyes, his nose, his mouth, pouring out, and he just collapses onto the stairs.
Brilliant. Smoke.
There's the Puta and a guard next to Yewan.
Puta's on the ground. There's a guard in front of Yewan. There's a guard next to Yewan. And then Zerga is also inside here as well.
All right, I'm gonna shoot the guard that's standing next to Yewan. I hit AC 16. Does that hit?
Yes.
It does 11 damage.
How do you kill this guard with your arrow?
Right through the neck.
You watch Yewan as the guard in front of you just... An arrow appears in his throat. And he just collapses to the ground in front of you. Zerga begins to push past the tables, shoving chairs aside.
Where did you go, Snookums? Come to mommy!
Yewan, you feel an incredibly intense pain from inside your stomach. And you are going to take... Two of those are max. How many hit points do you have left?
Tell me how much damage I take.
How many hit points do you have left?
And you tell me how much damage I take.
I rolled 3d6 for a total of 15 points.
Oh, I'm still up.
Of slashing damage as you feel as though your guts are being ripped apart.
Mm-hmm.
What's your reaction to that?
I just kind of smile, and I cough up blood, and I kind of double over in pain. But when I stand back up, there's this like really weird grin on my face. I'm kind of chuckling, and I look down at my book, and yes, is this what you wanted?
So he's a masochist.
The rest of you, as you see Yewan sort of doubling over and blood spilling down his chin, you also see as the large form of Puta rises up behind him. And a fist comes flying at you for a natural 8 on the die for a total of 14 to hit. That's going to hit you.
Mm-hmm.
And you are going to take... Where'd my D8 go? You are going to take... Ooh, this is not... There's no way you're still standing now. That's a 6 and a 7 on the 2 D8s. So that is a total of 17 points of bludgeoning damage.
All right. I'm down. So I just collapse in a heap.
You get... when Puta hits you, you go flying across the floor, skittering, and slam up against the bar, lying motionless. And it is your turn, so why don't you go ahead and make that first death saving throw?
That is an 11.
Yay!
You just barely succeeded on the first death save. And then... we are back to the top of the order, Myrrh.
All right, not liking Zerga at all. Myrrh is going to cast Ice Knife at her.
Oh, jeez.
Oh.
We're going to pull that one out of the bag.
Yeah.
All right, so it's a range attack on my part, so I actually have to roll. Oh. That's a 19 without even adding the bonus to it. So that's going to be 24.
Yeah, that absolutely hits.
Okay, so then it's going to be 1d10 piercing damage. And then the shard's going to explode.
Yep.
So that's a 7 on the d10.
All right.
And now she has to do a dex save against a 13.
That is a 15 on the die. That is a 14 for her. So she just saves.
Okay, so then she avoids the explosion. But is there anyone else in the area with her?
They got a 16 on the die. And that's pretty much for her entourage that was helping out. So they kind of take cover beneath the table as you launch this ice knife. she sort of hunches into herself, and her skin is she's so obese that the ice shards do actually penetrate her skin, but not enough to really damage her. She starts just sort of plucking ice chunks out of her skin, taking no extra damage from that. And Rivers.
Rivers is going to kind of lean over to get a good look at Yewan. And she kind of stands up. She's going to walk over to Yewan, if she can, if there's nothing between her and Yewan.
A bunch of scared sailors that are suddenly like, what the heck are you guys doing?
So she's going to walk towards Yewan, and she kneels down beside him, and she holds out her hand, and her little dragon homunculus lands on it, and she places him down again onto Yewan. And at the same time, she takes some of these, she takes this, it almost looks like a stick, like a hard, hollow stick with some sort of powder inside. And she is going to break it open and put it under Yewan's nose. And she's essentially casting Cure Wounds.
Okay.
And that is going to heal 10.
Nice.
And then the same thing as before, the hummingbird takes his hands, rubs his head a little bit, and then more of these drops fall off, and you're going to get some more temporary healing as well. Which is going to be 8. So 10 healing and then 8 temporary hit points.
Temporary hit. Yep.
And if she still has enough of a movement after, she wants to walk back and sit down at her seat.
You wouldn't have enough movement to get back.
Okay. She's going to start then going back.
All right. Smoke.
All right, so we've got Zerga and we've got Puta. Do either of them happen to have any, essentially any of my allies within 5 feet of them?
Puta is still right next to Myrrh.
All right, well then we're gonna fire away at him. Not that I think he's gonna go down anytime soon. 14 on the die. That's a 19 to hit.
That's a hit.
For a total of 9 damage.
Puta just seems to not be registering that arrows are striking into him.
Well, I mean that's great because if he doesn't know he's taking damage, then he's not going to come after me. I mean this is great.
Yeah.
I also want to kind of see what I have to do to be able to get out of here in case things don't go our way. So I'm looking around to see if there's any other exits, how quickly I could get through that broken window, all that stuff. So,
well, you're on the second floor, so you'd be able to tell that from where you're at, there's about 4 or 5 doors that lead into rooms that may or may not have windows in them.
Yeah, I've got a climb speed, so things like windows and heights are not really a big deal for me.
Well, just meaning if there's no window, that means there's no egress. Yewan, where you are laying on the ground, you have just been healed and revived by Rivers. You're in a lot of pain because something is inside you trying to get out. You take 4 points of damage.
Okay.
As this thing, you can feel it, you can actually see it moving under your belly. And you can see the shape of its head pressing against as it's trying to eat its way out of your gut. It's not going to be much longer, and it's going to burst forth from your stomach. Huta is going to attempt... to hit Myrrh. Huta! That is a 19 total. Myrrh gets 9 points of bludgeoning damage as his massive meaty fist connects with you. And that's back to Yabon.
So he wants to know, does this count as something he can see? Because he can see the head under his skin?
I think because it's pressed against your gut, and I specifically said you can kind of see that it's there, I'll count it as you can see it, just because you know exactly where it is.
Okay.
I don't even know what it is, but do it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's probably gonna be bad, but everything's gonna be bad at this point. So I just start laughing. And I stand up and I set my book down on the table next to me, and it just flops open to a page, and I just look at it and I laugh, and I just kind of look up, and I'm like, yes. And I cast infestation on the thing in my stomach. And it becomes covered in let's see here. It needs to make a con 14 saving throw.
It needs to make a... that is a 2.
It takes 6 points of poison damage and has to move 5 feet to the right.
Okay, so a couple things. It will absolutely move 5 feet to the right, but it's not a teleportation movement. It's a direct line movement. I also need you to make a con save, because you just cast infestation inside your own gut.
Nat 20.
So, and that's a save or nothing, right? It's not, there's no half damage. Yeah.
Correct.
All right, so it is going to rapidly chew its way out of your side, as from your side bursts this horrific, ugly-looking ferret, made even more ugly because it is covered in your own entrails, which it is trailing behind it a little bit, as it does 15 points of damage on the way out.
I'm down again. All right.
It is Myrrh. It's your turn. As Yewan has gone down again, this ugly creature has just burst out of his side and is trailing Yewan's entrails, and there's blood everywhere.
Yeah. And I got futa in my face, don't I?
You do indeed.
Yeah, so I'm gonna produce flame and then basically set the puta on fire, hopefully.
Okay.
So that's a ranged attack for me. Let's see. Ooh,
that would be at disadvantage because you're within 5 feet.
Oh, he's that close. Okay. All right. Then does a 15 hit?
A 15 does hit.
Okay. So D8. So he'll take D8 fire damage, and that is, oh, come on, I got a 3.
That is exactly what you needed to bring him to 40, not to kill him, though.
Bring him to what?
He had taken 37 points of damage. That just brought him up to 40 points of damage. It hasn't killed him yet. I'm just messing with you guys. Is that it?
Yeah.
All right, Rivers.
I think Rivers is heading back to her seat, and she hears this gross splorching noise behind her of Yewan being just eviscerated, and you can see her shoulders kind of slump, and she kind of rolls her head, and she turns around, and she goes back to Yewan. And this time, she's going to reach in on her side, and she's going to take these little, they look like little balls inside of a mesh pouch. And she takes one out, and she immediately rubs it in her hands, and immediately almost becomes like Play-Doh as she like stretches it, and she's going to place it over the wound. And as she's placing it over, it starts to look like it was originally like this light blue color, but now it's starting to look like Yewan's skin tone as she's stretching it across, and it's adhering, and that's another Cure Wounds. Which is going to be 7 points of healing. And then she's going to take Hummingbird and whisper to him, looking over at Puta, and immediately this little thing flies over to Puta, or as it's flying towards Puta, it sticks out its tongue, and when it does that, it lets out this little globule spittle at Puta, just hits him right in the neck, and that is going to for an attack of 20 to hit.
Yeah.
It's going to be 10 points of acid damage.
This acid starts to dissolve away part of Puta's skin where it hits. You can hear him crying out. And he's reflexively grasping at where the acid hit him. You all can hear now this as an entire squadron of town guards comes filing into the building. Spears and swords. The guard with the long blondish hair, the big bushy eyebrows, and the big handlebar mustache. Comes charging in, looking around at everything going on. And he looks at the four of you. Well, the three of you, as your various places where you're standing, and Yewan on the ground.
I told you to watch yourselves in my town. You're all under arrest. Seize them.
And that's where we're going to end this not a one-shot. Okay, so I wasn't deliberately trying to kill you, Dwight, because you did instigate this thing.
All right.
I did roll to determine randomly where the warp ferret was going to go, and then ignored it and targeted you. And because in the module, there is no description of exact... It literally just says, the ferret will do considerable damage and will take 1d4 turns to chew its way out of its victim. I did roll a 3 to determine it would take 3 rounds to get out. You just forced it out a little bit sooner. So I determined that 3d6 was considerable damage. So I might have been trying to kill you a little bit.
That's fine. It's all good.
But
I feel like I probably should have warned everybody that Yewan's a little bit crazy.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Joe Pereira, 1974. We know you as Chameleon Fam 4, as he says, one for the road. And, and Quinian BC has dropped another 100 in there for Yewan's inevitable fate. So a couple things about this, and then I'll give you guys a chance for final words, and we'll head out of here. I approached this. I legitimately thought that I could run this as a tight one-shot. I was foolish to think that. Knowing the caliber of role players that I was playing with, I should never have considered that. That said, I legitimately, because until I looked at this today, I had not yet had a chance to delve into the module to see how it was arranged. I mentioned at the beginning, or maybe I mentioned to the players and not online, this module is not laid out like any module I've ever seen. So I think the real prep, I think you can really run this sort of out of the box, so to speak, with minimal prep. And that prep, I think, is probably as simple as grabbing some Post-it notes and making little tabs so you know where each section is. I have it loose leaf, and I was flipping my pages loosely and got them out of order. So I struggled a couple points. What this module does is set up the beginning of what could be a very rich campaign with, I think they have the 3rd or 4th module is out already. There's a lot of great setup going on in here. Fantastic characters. You guys barely scratched the surface. A large part of what I did was almost completely, like with the characters, I was using a lot of what was written as dialogue options and just flavoring it and twisting it a little myself. I moved characters a little bit to get you to interact with them. I really, really liked how this was laid out. As a DM that likes to take a lot of tools like this, it kind of reminds me, it's very different from, but very reminiscent of the Absolute Tabletops adventure kits, where you are given a lot of pieces. It's definitely system agnostic. There are no stat blocks in here. There's nothing that's written in the language of a specific system. So I think you can easily drop this into any system. So I actually kind of want to run a campaign in this, but I definitely have another option for running some one-shots with you guys to see what your fate is within the context of this town. As I said, you barely scratched the surface. Fantastic roleplay, as always, from everybody. Megan was playing an artificer using the brand new Unearthed Arcana from D&D 5th edition. And as always, just absolutely incredible flavoring that you were putting on those, to where I was like, what the heck is she doing now? I'm like, I think I know, but this is really cool. And when I was a new DM, very, very new DM, literally Horde of the Dragon Queen was the only module that was out, is when I first met Yewan, and I hated him. But it was because I was a new DM and I didn't know how to deal with dick players like Dwight. That's completely set out of love. But no, I love that. And Dwight obviously was a new player back then and has learned a lot too. It doesn't show in this game. I'm just kidding. No, so, and then of course I'm always surprised to see what character V is going to bring to the table. She's got this amazing cast of characters that she draws from. Like, who am I going to bring into this game? Real quick, before I throw it over to you guys, I do want to say thank you to both Scotty and Gareth. Gareth, especially, seeing in the chat what you were dealing with. Get better. And amazing that you were watching while sitting in a doctor's office. But thank you to both of you, the authors of this module, for kind of following along. Thank you, DMG, says Jake nailed Balthazar and Zerga. Everybody who watches my games or plays in them knows I love characters, especially when I can give them these voices and these characterizations. I think you guys have done a really fantastic job with this, and I encourage everybody to get out there and get signed up for or purchase your Quest Givers materials as they continue to release them. Because you can run these as one-shots, you can run them as an ongoing campaign as they're released. It's very serialized. Thank you, of course, to our patron saint of the domain dice, Chameleon Fam. So glad to see you back with us on Thursdays. Thank you to Quinian BC, who I believe was here the whole time. Starin gets a shout out, was here at the beginning. I don't know if you're still here, Gamers Theater. And the other Jeremy, as we like to say, always stopping by, Jason. And I apologize if I missed you by name, but I try to watch the chat. So many of you, very appreciative. You are a part of what makes these games a big part of what makes these games so enjoyable. That we get to have fun with just the 5 of us, but also then with, I don't know, 10 or 15 or 20 people that happen to hang out and enjoy it as well. So we greatly appreciate that as well. So I'm going to throw it to each of you to give us your thoughts on this module, this adventure, and then we're going to head out of here. So let's start with Ted.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. I really enjoyed it. Scotty and Gareth have actually, sent the thing to me to take a look at, give feedback. And I purposely haven't looked at it yet because Jake had said that, we were going to be doing this. So like, I'm chewing at the bit to be like, I want to read it, but I can't yet because I'm going to play it. So it's a lot of fun. I had a blast. I got to game for the first time with Dwight tonight, and that was really cool. I thought everybody did a great job. I fully agree that I think Megan's descriptions of what her artificer powers were spot on. And I was trying to guess, like, oh, what is she doing here? Because I'm familiar with it, but it encourages that particular mindset that you really should be describing your actions and not just like, oh, I wave my hands and cast magic like a wizard, because you're not. You're an artificer. So I really think it was a stellar job. So Jake, I agree. Your characterizations of voices is one of the things that really draws people in and makes you really feel like you're there. So all around, great job, everybody.
Thanks, Ted. Megan.
Hello. I immediately was drawn to the characters from this game. They are so different. They feel like that they have that sense of like your typical D&D NPCs, but like cranked up to 100, which is super, super cool. I love that. And yeah, you know, Jake, you always bring NPCs to life, absolutely, and that is amazing. And so this town just seems so rich. So it was super, super cool to play in, and I'm really happy that I got to try out the Artificer. It was a blast. So thank you for having me.
Very cool. Thank you, Dwight.
Yeah, as usual, always a blast playing with everybody. And Ted, it's great to play with you for the first time. I've seen you on some of the YouTubes, so it's good to actually interact with you. I play with Megan and V every Monday, so I'm used to their craziness. But this was actually fun because Yewan's, I think, the second or third character I ever rolled up in D&D, and I only got to play him once. Maybe twice. Before. Actually, I take that back because I did use him on a test run of one of Jake's early builds too. I remember that. So, but I never really got to explore the character at all, and I actually felt like I got to do that a little bit today because I was always enjoyed the backstory of this character he's a warlock. He has a pact with an old god, an elder god, and he's going crazy because of it, and so I rolled up as a level 1, and he was fine. And the intention was that as he progressed as a character, he would go more and more mad. And so I think when I last played him, he leveled up to level 3, and I haven't touched him since then. So this is my first time to kind of get inside that craziness. So, it was fun. And I was like half of the thing. I was like, how am I going to get involved in this? I don't really see an opportunity to do anything. And then it presented itself, and I didn't mean to kill the guy, but it felt like what needed to happen there. So yeah, it's always a pleasure, even last minute notice. And thanks for not killing me this time, Jake, as hard as I tried.
It's actually kind of exciting that Yewan survived, because if we get a chance to explore more, there's definitely something for Yewan here in this town. I mean, definitely, maybe. I mean, possibly. There might be. And now, V, weirdly channeling a little bit of the Vi druid vibe, playing a druid who never once wild-shaped.
I was actually quite tempted to, but then Puta got on top of me.
All right, V, what's your final thoughts?
It's a really cool system. The way it was set up and everything, it was fleshed out. It was well-rounded, and it wasn't just, stats on paper. It was a town. So that I really thought was a very cool factor to it. I love that part. Also liked being able to give Mur a little bit more of a personality, because while I've played her before, I didn't have much of a chance to role play her. So that was fun to kind of bring her about as I had kind of had her pictured in my head and have her interact finally. So it was great. Really enjoyed it. Had a great time with it, and looking forward to see what we do with them now.
Yeah, this was a blast seeing what characters you guys brought. I did give these guys the option, obviously minus Dwight, but I gave these guys the option to bring in their Dawnbringers characters and do another sort of alternate reality. But I'm glad we went with new characters. And even if for some reason, if this just sits on a shelf and we don't get to revisit it, which I find unlikely, but I definitely plan on using the Quest Givers materials either to run a mini campaign or run some more one shots. But I really do. I gotta echo what you guys said. You really set up the town of Winter Bay as a really rich town and that's one of the weird way that this module is laid out. Is it's by location. There's roll tables for optional dialogue options, and very much like a video game where when you're talking to different people in the town and you get a chance to learn pieces of information. I just sort of kind of randomly pick and choose in the interactions. I definitely had to have you guys meet Balthazar. And because he was just one of my favorites. Shout out to What You Looking At popping in at the end there for that shiny 13 months in a row subscription, earning yet another domain die. You guys are flush with domain dice tonight. So no matter, Dwight, you tried to burn through these. You used more than anybody else, and they have more domain dice than they started with by a long shot tonight, with them being used. So yeah, there's there's so much I could say about this. I might have to actually sit down and do a more in-depth review as its own video on Quest Givers. Yeah, so yeah, exactly what Quinny and BC just said. I'd personally love to see this as a full arc. Feels like there's tons more story, locations, NPCs we haven't met. Gareth dropping another 100 bits in the chat. Thank you for that. We could go on and on. I think I'm gonna give this thing. I'm gonna give this thing a full treatment as a MTD reviews segment. We're gonna go ahead and get out of here because this game went about 45 minutes longer than I originally thought it would. But we're having fun on a Thursday night. So big thank you again to everybody in the chat. Thank you to Gareth and Scotty for letting me run this, for creating it. Be sure to look up the Quest Givers on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter as well. Check all these guys out on their social media. Thank you, Ted, who I get to play with every Thursday night here and once a month in the Nerdarchy RPG Crate game. Megan, who I get to play with just about every day of the week in various games that either I'm running or she's running. V, I get to play with a couple times a week with games that I'm running, or she's recently joined our Nerdarchy game. And Dwight, I get to play with once or more a week as the opportunities present themselves. And thank you to everybody who subscribes, domain dice, all that stuff. Much love from the Mini Terrain domain. And with that, we are going to end this stream the same way we end every stream, and you can say it with me if you want.
Da, 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 da.